Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.
We hope you enjoy listening to this podcast of St. Louis on the Air, brought to you by University College at Washington University, with undergraduate and graduate programs part-time, evening, and online. University College at Washington University, offering world-class education within reach.
This is St. Louis on the Air. I'm Don Marsh. The St. Louis Chamber Chorus is performing a world premiere this weekend as it launches a new season. The work is titled On Friendship. It is the commissioned work of internationally renowned Latvian composer Ēriks Ešenvalds. He joins me in studio along with the chorus artistic director Philip Barnes. Ēriks, welcome to St. Louis.
Hello. Thank you.
Philip, good to see you again.
Hello, Don.
Well, let's get right to this. This is a commissioned piece. Commissioned by the chorus. How and why?
It's actually commissioned for us by two friends of a former chorus member, wonderful friend of mine who's been singing in the choir for many years but is now retired, and her name is Alice Sherwood, and two friends, Alison Ferring and Nancy Kransberg, have supported this commission, setting words by the prophet Khalil Gibran on friendship, and we wanted to find a composer who really was superior at setting words for unaccompanied voices, and you don't really need to look any further than Ēriks Ešenvalds. So I'm delighted and thrilled that he accepted the commission.
Ēriks, this must be quite a challenge to take on something like this, particularly long distance.
Well, my two flights were almost cancelled, but somehow I managed, and instead of 14-hour trip, it took me 24 hours to get here. But it's a beautiful city. I'm in love with it. This is my first time, and this is a city of Sarah Teasdale. So far, I have written 14 songs with her lyrics. I have tried also Emily Dickinson, but I still think I have to grow till the level of Dickinson, because she says 2 words and comma, 3 words, full stop, where Sarah Teasdale just endlessly paints her painting. And that's what I'm looking forward, because music has to flow like a river.
Well, how about the words of Khalil Gibran?
Well, thanks to Philip. And, even I have graduated all my educational universities, but I'm still studying. And I do want to study the rest of my life. I go to library, I read a lot, and thanks to Philip, who introduces me and suggests, and I found it a wonderful poem, and here we are.
How challenging was it for you? I wanted to get some sense of, you're still living in Latvia, I assume, and you're working with people in St. Louis on this commission. How difficult is that to do long distance?
Well, I always ask conductors to introduce me to their group. Mm-hmm. And so I can feel them, I can look through their repertoire, so that I wouldn't write too easy. I wouldn't write like for contemporary music festival, without tonality at all. And what kind of commission, who are the people who commissioned the piece? So in other words, there was years ago musicologists who after listening to my music said, "Ēriks, you are composer chameleon."
Composer chameleon.
And I like that. And that's what I teach also my students, because I'm professor at Music Academy in Riga, teaching composition. And I said, please study all the techniques, all styles. So when you are ready, you receive a commission to write a piece, then you are ready. You see the empty canvas, and on your palette, you have all the colors. So you are prepared.
Everything's there and ready to go.
Yeah.
Philip, how about on this end, working on this end on a project like this?
Well, my job is to really give a detailed brief of what we're looking for. So we'll work sometime discussing a text. So we came up with the idea of Khalil Gibran because it's a sort of a poem, a series of words that is definitely spiritual in nature, but they're not explicitly religious. And we've got people of all and no faiths in this choir and in our audience. So we wanted something that would speak to everybody. Nobody would feel alienated. I hope that everybody hearing this has friends and is a friend to somebody else, and so they can all identify with the sentiments that Khalil Gibran identifies very eloquently. So the first thing is the text, and the second thing is to, as Ēriks said, give the composer an idea of what this choir is like, because all of these choirs are different, like automobiles are different. So you make things available to them. So we have quite a lot of our performances on YouTube. So, and we have made, 14 CDs, I think. And so he's been able to hear some of that and then also look at the repertoire, see the sort of range of things we do. So hopefully before Ēriks even started to write for us, he had an idea of what we are and certainly what we're not.
Ēriks, what is your impression of the St. Louis chorus?
I have been traveling worldwide except Antarctica, judging choral competitions, judging composition competitions and festivals, and attending premieres of my work. And I still think that the highest acrobatics in the choral performance is to have these two techniques, rubato and legato. And
would you explain those for those who are not familiar?
So rubato is flexibility to tempo. And to find and you have to adjust the tempo, so to phrase or do the ritardando in a wonderful ensemble. So when everyone is breathing the same story. And legato, allow your voice to bloom in the natural way, singing every phrase, every word. And this choir has these qualities.
If you're not really familiar with what we're trying to talk about, but I think everybody living around here has had the opportunity to drive through, let's say, rural Illinois, and they've seen fields of corn just waving in the wind all together, and there's a sort of beauty about that. That's kind of what we mean vocally. The choir isn't rigid. It will go with the flow, and the flow is dictated by the composer. So Ēriks has given us this amazing vehicle.
You have not had a chance yet to work with the chorus here, but you will, I'm sure, over the next couple of days. How much control will you have over the way they perform?
It depends on Professor Philip. How much will he allow me? But, composers, when composers are still alive, you better ask composers, what would you suggest? What did you mention on this page, on this bar? So I'm flexible. I'm very open, and I will listen carefully. I will not break. I will not destroy their interpretation, but I might add a few suggestions I had in mind when composing this piece.
Do you think that if this were performed by, let's say, 5 different choral groups,
yes,
that it would sound different in each case?
Yes, and there are also technical limitations. If your choir is 16 singers, your choir is 30 singers, your choir is 100 singers. So the tempo should be flexible, and also the venues where the piece is performed, does it have a wonderful acoustics, or is it very, very dry? So these are technical things which have to be taken into account.
Well, the venue this Sunday at 3 o'clock, I should point out, is at Christ Church Cathedral.
Pretty wonderful venue.
I was going to say it's a pretty nice one. You've performed there before
many times.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
It's sort of much of the building is in an English architectural style, a bit of French thrown in, and so much of our concert is finding some great English pieces. So one of the main pieces is the Mass by Vaughan Williams for 2 choirs. And so because I knew we were doing this big piece for 2 separate choruses, almost like in a dialogue with one another, that's why I then said to Ēriks, when you write your piece, use the same resources, make your piece a conversation between 2 choirs. And so that's what we've done.
How much do the acoustics change in a place like this church when you've got a full house and not a full house?
Well, that's a very, very good question. They can change enormously, and particularly in December. when people's coats are lying around.
Absorbing sound.
That's exactly what they are. They absorb the sound, and so you can be in a building on a Saturday morning at a dress rehearsal, and of course it's freezing cold because they've not turned the heating on, and there's nobody there, and you get this beautiful bloom and sound to it, and then the next day you can't quite understand why you're not getting the same effect. It's because there are 500 people there wearing rather thick coats and trying to warm their hands. And it's just my job is to try and identify places that will be consistent, or I can predict to the singers what to expect the next day so that they can adjust. And they are amazingly good singers. I mean, they're very flexible. That's one of the tests of a really professional choir.
Ēriks, it must be bothersome to a composer to have to deal with this. Of course, this is a premiere. On Friendship is a premiere, but that's not been played before. But others of your compositions, have you had that experience where the acoustics aren't what you would want and what you feel are sufficient for what you've written?
The only ask when I come to performers, I ask them, please be flexible, so I can step in with my suggestions. Let's make this journey together. So far in my life, I have met 2 choirs who haven't been flexible, and I couldn't understand why they invited me. And maybe just for picture, and that's all. But yeah, so only please be flexible. And yeah, so the answer about the venue's acoustics, I can't change it. So we will find the best for every acoustics.
I think our non-musical expression is you go with the flow. I mean,
That's
it's
right.
pretty much what you have to do. You're a very young man, Ēriks.
Well, I have 4 kids. My oldest kid is already 18, and the youngest is 3.
Well, then you look younger than you probably are.
Thank you.
But when did you get started in all of this? How old were you when music called?
I remember that day. I was 10 years old in a chorus class at children's music school. That was still Soviet time. Latvia was under the communist era. And there was a break, 5-minute break. And I was like kind of in a happy mood. And I just grabbed empty sheet of music paper and I just wrote some casual notes and wrote lyrics under the notes, fa la 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 la. And then another singer suggested, oh, go show this to the conductor. And the conductor played it on the piano. And of course it didn't sound beautiful. But she said, Ēriks, maybe you should compose. And that word, compose, stuck in my mind because I hadn't thought about that. But then I started to think about it. And I came home and sat at my piano and I started to compose something. And at that time, Whitney Houston was a very popular singer. You know, she's still one of my top singers because there is such a freedom in her voice.
She grew up in my hometown, by the way, so I know all about Whitney Houston. Yeah. But go ahead.
And we couldn't buy her sheet music in Soviet Union, but we saw her on TV and we heard her on radio and audio cassettes. So my main subject in children's music school was piano playing. So, and I was very good in the piano, and I just learned to play her songs by listening. And I was surprised to figure out that her songs consisted of plain chords, 6-7 different chords, F, D minor, B flat major, GM7. Those beautiful songs were created just with simple chords. And that was like the next step. Yes, I learned the transitions, and I used different tonalities, so I became to compose my own tunes without lyrics. But that was the beginning, age of 10, 11, thanks to Whitney Houston.
We can give our audience an opportunity to hear how well you learned all of these lessons, by the way, because we have something that we can play. Philip, I'll ask you to describe this because I'm not sure I want to try to pronounce it.
Well, this actually doesn't feature Whitney Houston, but it does feature 2 ethereal female singers with a choir as a backing. It's called O Salutaris Hostia, which is the Latin for O victim that has given us salvation. So it's a piece that was originally used at communion services, but it's, I think, one of your most popular songs. If you look at his website, it's absolutely amazing. He's got numerous performances of his music daily.
Wow.
So on the same day that we're having the world premiere of On Friendship, this piece is being sung somewhere else in Europe.
We'll put a link to that website of Ēriks on our website, but let's listen to what you've done. The music of Ēriks Ešenvalds. It's beautiful. It's simply beautiful. There's nothing quite like the choral sound. I mean, it's just
It's just purity.
Absolute purity. I was thinking here, it's almost haunting, Ēriks. Is that a word you would use, or would you object to my use? That's haunting music.
Well, I'm just happy to hear these words, but you know, I have 4 kids, and even this morning...
You've already mentioned that.
But even this morning, just doing the Skype with my family, I recognize that, okay, one kid has problem at school, another kid has this and this. That's daily life. That's daily job to be a father, a parent, and I don't have time to think about is my music good or bad. I just keep doing when I have time. And at the same time, on a daily basis, I'm a driver for my children. Mm-hmm. Every morning, every afternoon. And when there is a silence at home in the evening, then I compose.
With 4 kids, there's probably not too many evenings where it's very silent. That's, you know, Philip, I was thinking as Ēriks was telling us his story about growing up being exposed to music. I often think of this, and I'd like to get your reaction to it. What if he had never been exposed to music? What if the great pianists of the world had never been exposed to a piano? You know, what would it be like? You know, it's really hard to imagine growing up with this talent that never got the chance to blossom.
Isn't that the challenge of education, and the challenge for all of us in our society is that people with an unusual gift are given the means and the opportunity to explore that gift and to refine and hone it. And as you and I both know, I mean, I'm a school teacher as well, there are, for as many kids as we identify and we encourage and we try to bring on, there are others who don't get that opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's the perennial challenge, I think.
Ēriks, have you ever thought about what your life might have been like if at age 10 you had not had that that impulse to go into the musical world?
Well, I would be a medicine doctor. Yeah, that's my second passion. To help people with healthcare. Yeah.
Well, music helps people. You know, I'll tell you a quick story. I don't want to digress too much, but I did an interview recently with a man who's written a book on the history of the heart. And with all the advances that have been made these days in cardiology and techniques, he said the most effective thing of all is just emotion, pulled back, relax, yoga, music. Just listen to that, and that does you more good than anything else you can think of. So you are, perhaps, fulfilling that role. Yeah.
It wasn't easy to find my call in life. It took me 2 years. First, I thought to be a psychologist, then to be a pastor. And in age of 19, I only find my place at Music Academy in Riga, Latvia. And there, months later, I found myself to be happy. And finally, I had a feeling, yeah, that's my call in life.
Philip has indicated how prolific you are. How many pieces have you written in your young life?
So far, about 100. Not much.
Not much.
But some of these are 40 minutes long, to give you an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them are a few minutes and some of them are symphonic. 2 operas. So that counts as 2 pieces for him.
Right. He would be too modest, I'm sure, to say this, but if you can tell us, this man has been acknowledged all over the world for his abilities. Tell us a little of that you know.
Well, I don't think that many people can be that wrong. It is gratifying to see, just when you think you've explored nearly all the choral repertoire, it's fascinating and it's gratifying to find composers of the caliber of Ēriks who are able to take words that are maybe familiar to you from other settings and give a totally new slant take on it. But even very familiar words. I'm a great fan of several of his pieces that I've sung those words myself in many different versions, but he brings something new to the table without it being so weird and alienating that I just think it's a distraction. So I am clearly not alone because, as I said, there are so many people who are like me, are enjoying and discovering and relishing the music of this rather humble man next to me.
Ēriks, has it been difficult for you? Is it an easy process for you or difficult?
Composing is very hard. And 4 years ago, we finished our new house in complete countryside. And when the neighbors found out that I was a composer, they said, and when you compose, open your window so we can hear your music. And then I answered, no. You know, every bar in my music has been polished 100 times, just playing chord transitions. It's a very, very dirty job, and I don't want to share this process of polishing music with anyone.
Well, it certainly comes out well, all that I've heard anyway. And folks will have a chance on Sunday at 3 at Christ Church Cathedral. Right. Before we go, we've got about a minute left. What else is on your agenda for the season?
Well, in November, we are going to perform a piece in praise of beer. We're going to sing at the Schlafly Tap Room. We've done that a couple of times before. It's always rather popular. Christmas, we're going to concentrate on music from Ireland. We'll do that in St. James the Greater in Dogtown, which is always a traditional Irish congregation. And around Valentine's Day, we've got a program all about love. In the middle of April, we have a concert for Passion Sunday. We're doing a very unusual piece, rediscovered from around the time of the Russian Revolution, a piece on the Passion. And then we finish the year with a whole program at the end of May about hope. So
a good way to
the whole season is called States of Being. So it's all trying to find music that explores these different human experiences.
Great. Well, we'll put a link to your website on ours so folks can see all of that if they didn't get it all down. Congratulations to you, by the way. This is your 30th year.
It is.
Doesn't time fly when
It
you're
does.
having fun?
When you think you're only going to do it for 2 years, it's a bit of a shock to find you've been doing it 30.
I want to thank you both so much for being with us. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.